Hey, what's going on everyone? In this video, I will be reviewing the On Cloudmonster Hyper 3. But before we get into that, I need to thank today's sponsor. That's right, you guessed it, my wife. Because without her, I wouldn't have as many shoes as I do. Someone needs to approve these purchases, and I definitely should not be the one trusted to be doing so. But with that being said, right before I get into the actual shoes themselves, I want to give you a quick overview of me. So I am 5'11", I weigh between 195 and 200 pounds, and my daily paces, so whether it's my easy runs or if I'm going to be hitting some strides, are anywhere between 8:20 to 8:45, and then my workout paces, so if I'm doing a tempo, threshold type of long run or workout interval, it's usually between a 7:20 all the way down to a 6:30. So with that being said, let's get into the shoe review. So first things first, let's talk about this upper. This is a very solid upper. It's got a nice padded heel collar. It has the nice extra loop so I can do my lace lock, which I prefer for my baby deer ankles. And the overall lockdown is solid. I really don't have any complaints as far as the overall fit, but I do need to have some call outs here on one critical component that I'll get into in just a moment. But before that, I do want to highlight that it's hot here in Texas right now. It's very humid, and this shoe has been phenomenal. It's been very breathable. Some of my shoes, after I run 6 miles in them, sound like I've been running in the rain. So this overall upper is solid. There is one critical component though that I did have to change to the shoe, and those are going to be the laces. So when it comes to the laces, the ones that came with the shoes did not have any real stretch or give to them. And so when I had first few runs, when I was locking down the shoe, I was getting a little bit of lace bite. And it's because as much as you want your shoes to be locked down, you want a little bit of give as you're actually going through the motion of running. And that was the one thing I did have to change as far as the upper goes. So that being said, I think the overall fit is great. I have a slightly wider than average foot, and I think this is very accommodating. I think if you have a normal foot or a slightly wider foot, these should work for you really well. Now, let's get to the big part, which is going to be the midsole. And compared to the original Cloudmonster Hyper, this one has that full length PIBA, but it still has that bottom layer of EVA. So this is going to be a bit polarizing as far as the midsole goes, but I will gladly report right off the bat, after 100 miles, this has to be one of my personal favorite midsoles that has been released this year. The first 20 to 30 miles, it definitely needed a bit of a break-in, but after that initial break-in period, they have held up phenomenally well. And so for me, 100 miles is really where I figure out how long this shoe is actually going to last for. And so I'm happy to report for 100 miles, which is normally when the shoes start fading, I actually felt after today's run, these shoes are getting even better with time. So from a durability of that midsole standpoint, it's been phenomenal. And I'm very heavy on my shoes in general. I mean, if you're anything like me, you know, pushing that 200 mark or heavier, or you just land heavy in general, you know what creasing can look like on a shoe. And I mean, after 100 miles, this shoe, and particularly my right foot, has held up really well. I mean, we have some crease lines, but these honestly look more like break-in crease lines than anything else. I mean, look at my left shoe, for example, the one that I typically land a little bit lighter on. It doesn't really have much in the way of crease lines, which I think shows the overall protection and resistance to compressiveness of this midsole. So I really have to give it its flowers there. And then along with that as well, the overall geometry of the shoe is phenomenal. When I think of range, I think of the On Cloudmonster Hyper 3. I have done everything in this shoe from my daily mileage up to long run workouts. I've put down a 140 half marathon in this shoe in training. I mean, I have hit some comfortable sub 7 minute mile repeats in this shoe. It just can do it all. And this is gonna be an important call out because this might also be a preference thing. Because for me as a bigger runner and the amount of force I'm putting down with my weight, a lot of midsoles can feel compressive, but this shoe, it's the word that comes to mind is it's sturdy. And I mean, when you put this shoe on, it's a tank. But not a tank in a heavy or cumbersome way. It's a tank in that you can just throw down in this shoe and it's gonna bounce right back. It's gonna let you know that it is here to party with you. And that's why I think for the midsole, it's a 9 out of 10. I think with one caveat, if you are patient enough to have this shoe break in, I think this midsole works for everyone. It has just enough compressive give on your daily mileage, but then once you start picking up that pace, the reactiveness that it has to whatever force you're applying is phenomenal. Easily one of my most favorite shoes that I've had this year. Would highly recommend it, and I would double up on this shoe, which I'll get into next when we're actually talking about the value of the shoe. So this shoe retails for, I believe it's $210, but On now has their Cyclone program, and I've seen some of these shoes go for as low as $154. And that is a crazy price for this shoe. I mean, that's the price of a daily trainer. And so if you're not familiar, the Cyclone program from On is they're basically selling lightly used shoes. And the reason why I did the quotation marks is because in the Supwell community, some people have said they ordered the shoes and they still had the inner shoe cushioning, or what is it called, the stuffing for it, right? And the outsole never looked like it had ever even touched pavement. So that's a steal. For that price alone, barring anything else, that has to give it a 9 out of 10, because for that value, especially in today's economy, that price is just really good. I can't praise that price point enough if you can get it from the Cyclone program. But other things to think of when we're thinking of the value are going to be a combination of the upper, the midsole, and the most important factor, as I've mentioned before, is the range. So this shoe is supposed to be a super trainer. And so super trainers in today's world as of June 2026, it's July. July 2026 is going to be one of two things. With super trainers, it's very polarizing. It's either you get something like the Streak Fly. That is a super trainer built for a very highly specialized activity, which is going to be your sprint intervals or track work. And then there's the other end of the spectrum for super trainers in today's market, where I believe the Cloudmonster Hyper 3 sits, and that's going to be in the range and paces that it can cover. As I had mentioned before during the midsole review, this shoe can do everything. If you put a gun to my head and said, you need to run a half marathon and you need to PR in this shoe, I am confident that I could do it. It wouldn't be my first pick. There are definitely better picks, but for a super trainer, this has to be up there as one of the best shoes when it comes to the range. I mean, daily miles, I'm going to be running my 12-mile long run this weekend in this shoe. It can just do it all. And I think for that value alone, that has to give it a 9 out of 10. Again, but I have to give the caveat. You do have to give this shoe time. And I know that's very frustrating in today's shoe market because there are so many shoes that are just so good out of the box. But this is one of those shoes, and I really wasn't too sure at first, but sometimes with the stiffer shoes up front, they just need a little bit of time to break in. And then once they break in and open up, that's when you're gonna get the real experience out of the shoe. And that's what I feel like was the case with this shoe. This shoe takes some time, but if you put in some of that mileage early, I would recommend just taking out honestly for your daily miles before it gets opened up, or even just taking it for walking around. I think it's a pretty good looking shoe. So, you know, if you need to break it in by walking around in it, I think this shoe will do numbers for you when it comes to your running. So I can't recommend this shoe enough. And so if I were to give my overall rating for the shoe, I would give it an 8 for that upper. Again, just because I had to modify and put the laces on, I really wanted to give it a 9 out of 10, but because I did have to make an actual modification to the shoe, that gives it a 9, an 8. The midsole, that's a 9. I think once it breaks in, especially the range that it delivers on and comfort, it's tanky, it's sturdy, it's a very solid, stable, neutral shoe. I reach for this shoe when my legs are feeling a little beat up and they just need a little extra support while I'm getting on the move. That midsole, easily a 9 out of 10. And then I think the overall value is a 9 out of 10. So that gives this an 8.66 rating. But I'd love to know your thoughts. Have you tried this shoe? Did you like it at first? Did you not like it? Would love to know other people's thoughts, because I do feel like this shoe has been a bit polarizing in the running communities that I've seen. So with that being said, if you guys liked the video, I would really appreciate it if you could give me a thumbs up. And if you didn't like the video, let me know. This is all relatively new. I would love to get better and making sure that I'm providing enough value to you all if you're spending your time here with me. So with that being said, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you guys soon.